warmly welcome you all to another episode of Wilderness Insight, which is a project done by the Wilderness and Wildlife Protection Society of Royal College, where we interview professionals related to the wildlife conservation field. My name is Dharmaratne, and I have my colleague Shuaib with me from the Senior Committee of the Wilderness and Wildlife Protection Society of Royal College, and we will be hosting today's discussion with Mr. Vimukthi Weerathunga. Good evening, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Can you all hear me properly?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you please introduce yourself and could you update the progress of your activities done so far?
First of all, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your society for inviting me to talk to the youngsters in the field of the wildlife conservation, which is not a very popular profession in Sri Lanka. You know, some countries it is very popular, but not in Sri Lanka. Opportunities are very small. Yeah, as far as my career is concerned, so I started my life in 1985. So I worked for the Forest Department for 12 years, and then that's a government job. From there, I moved. I changed my field of study to the wildlife science, and then went back to States and got my higher degrees, and then came back to Sri Lanka and then joined the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is one of the largest international conservation agencies in the world. I would say it's the largest because that organization has been operating in 93 different countries. So Sri Lanka there's a Sri Lankan country office. So I was happy to join the Sri Lanka country office as the head of Biodiversity program. And then I moved to a smaller advocacy group called Environmental Foundation Limited for another 5 years. So IUCN worked for 5+ years. And then from there, I worked for a small advocacy company called Environmental Foundation Limited. They are basically, trying to protect the environment through litigation. So to intervening through the legal means. And then I moved to the private sector, which is the Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts under the Jones Holdings, and managing the wildlife tourism arm of Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. So by looking at, I work for government sector, international organizations, small companies, large private sector. So I have covered almost the entire spectrum of different organizations, different companies that I can ever think of working. So every place it's different, and the interventions are different. My expertise are different, and every place gave me a lot of opportunities to learn and apply my knowledge different. You know, when you work for a government sector, it's different. When you work for an international organization, it's totally different. When you work for a small advocacy company, it's different. When you work for a private sector, it's totally different. So, that is how you need to think about, any profession. It doesn't matter where you work, but if you know the basics, if you get your training properly, if you're learning properly, and then you can apply to every sector, every situations, I would say. So that will maximize your productivity, your contribution towards any organization that you're working. So far, I would say my contribution towards the conservation and environmental sector, not only in Sri Lanka, but also in international interventions, I'm somewhat happy, but I could have done a lot more in terms of my contribution. But, considering all circumstances with limitations of every organization, I think I would say that I'm very happy about my journey so far.
Yes, sir. So as you mentioned, you have a lot of experience in this field of wildlife conservation, and you've been a part of the private sector as well as government organizations for a long period of time. but it is to our knowledge that you are also into wildlife photography. And nowadays, we see a lot of children that show a lot of passion towards this wildlife photography. So you having a background with environmental conservation and management, so you know the things behind science and you know how this nature works. So because of that, do you see things in a different light, nature? So when you go on safaris, when you go out to the environment, do you see things in a different way than like compared to other people? Do you think that your background in environmental management and conservation has helped you in that perspective?
Absolutely. It's a very valid question for today's generation, because we all know photography has evolved into a very sophisticated tool today, called, digital revolution has given us a fantastic tool, a fantastic equipment to your hand at a very cheap rate. But you pointed out a very important point. As a scientist, environmental scientist, photography was part of my life from the very first day. In 1985, I started. Before that also, I had a passion of taking pictures, but that's curiosity. That is what you need in life, not only as environmental, but also any field. You have to have the curiosity to learn things. So camera has given me a different perspective of nature, because it became a notebook for me. When I take pictures of animals, the birds, the butterflies, the areas, it gives me try to learn things in detail, looking at things, especially for identification of birds. Sometimes you may not have the binocular in your hand, but you take a picture and go home. And those days, of course, you have to process pictures and see different features and things like that. And then later on, when I became a scientist, environmental science person, that also give additional advantage for me to make better pictures. Why? Because the knowledge, the additional knowledge that I have obtained gives me an edge of than the other photographers, because I know exactly where to go, what time I should spend, how much time I should spend, what is I know exactly which direction sun is coming, I know exactly the behavior of animals, so that I know what is going to happen next before anybody else predict anything. So that, because of that knowledge and the photographic skills that I have developed, that gave me a lot of advantage than the other photographer. But more than that, photography is a tool now for science, for conservation, to increase the awareness of the people, to bring some more people into the field by showing beautiful things, by showing the destructive part of it. And it's a very powerful tool, I would say. Now we all know that there's one picture, the Vietnam War. There was a little girl who was running without clothes during the bombing. That one picture changed the entire image of the US-Vietnam War. So it is like that. The photographs can change the perspective of many people, especially the young kids. I'm so glad to see today the youngsters are carrying very good cameras and then going around even during the weekends, even the nearby wetlands. You don't have to go to the national park to make pictures. Your backyard is a fantastic place to start with. So I was very happy to see the youngsters are very much into the photography, because it's a very powerful tool today. That is how you communicate to the people. That's a medium that you can use to bring more and more people into the conservation, because everybody doesn't have the time to go out and enjoy things. But as a photographer, we can bring that beauty or a distraction or a message to wider audience. So that's the part that gives me immense pleasure, and also to see the things through my lens. That creates a different fascinating part of life on the planet.
So with that, we move on to the next topic. So you've gone to various locations in the island and you found endangered animals and taken their pictures as well, if I'm not mistaken. So you being a member of the expert committees of reptiles, freshwater fishes, butterflies, and mammals in the preparation of national red list of threatened species, was the procedure taken to protect an endangered animal once that animal is red listed? And so has the number of animals that are being red listed increased in the past few years?
Very good question, because every country, we all know that the areas, the wilderness areas are diminishing, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So Sri Lanka is no exception. Because why? Our numbers are increasing, the human numbers are increasing, and our needs are there for agriculture expansion, new townships, our needs are increasing. Because of that, ultimately the forest lands and the natural areas we are slowly invading. So that's the bigger picture. So with that, a lot of animals are losing their ground. That is how the species are becoming endangered, because they are losing their homes. Their homes are getting smaller and smaller, so that their biophysical relationships are getting smaller. So the assessment is very big, very long process. Every 4 years, we put out a national red list. With that, we have experts in the country, not only in Sri Lanka, but many other parts of the world. There are expert groups, then they come together and evaluate every single species based on their distribution, based on their numbers, based on their threat levels, based on their reducing their living areas. So many scientific methodologies to do it. So it's a very tedious process. That is why he's doing every 4 years. Because every year you can't do it. Every 4 years we do it. So IUCN, the World Conservation Union, which I worked for 6 years, is the authority of putting the international red list. In Sri Lanka also the same. Yes, the numbers are increasing, not as rapidly as other countries, but some species are having really difficulty. The biggest problem is the elephant. You know, the elephants are diminishing numbers, diminishing areas. So they are having a very difficult time to cope up with this thing. So the preparation of a national red list, there are two ways to do it. One thing is for us to understand what are the species that are in the threatened list and what can you do to take them out of the threatened list. So those are the two things that we need to look at. So when you say that one particular species in the threatened list, the scientists and everybody should understand, okay, this is in the threatened list. We need to do something to take him out of the threatened list. So there are many conservation initiatives that people can do. By publishing the red list is advantage is that the scientists can focus on, give some additional focus on these threatened species, so that not only you're protecting that particular threatened species, but also their habitats, their homes, so that many more species can also survive. The classic example is the Sri Lankan leopard. You know, Sri Lankan leopard is in a threatened status. So if we protect the home of leopard, the habitat of leopards, so many other species will automatically get protected. So that's the idea of red listing. In some other countries, there's a legal part. For example, in US, if you're looking at, there's an Endangered Species Act. That means if you put the species into the endangered species list, that particular species will go to the Endangered Species Act. That means if that species in that Endangered Species Act, nobody can touch the habitat or the areas that that particular animal is living. So that's the highest level of protection. Unfortunately, Sri Lanka doesn't, we have not gone to that level. I have tried so hard to bring that legislative into the Sri Lankan legislation, but couldn't do it. But US is very strong on that. So any animal that are in the red list, in the threatened category, will automatically become entered into the Threatened Endangered Species Act, which will automatically give the legal protection of that particular and additional legal protection in addition to the other legislatives. So those are the sort of different things that we do in terms of red listing species.
So what do you think that is the main cause for species to get threatened, sir?
Well, the main cause is in Sri Lankan situation. No, not only Sri Lankan situation, everywhere in the world is diminishing their habitats. They're getting smaller and smaller. That is called habitat fragmentation. The larger forest areas are becoming a smaller areas, so that they are getting cramped up, and then they don't have any connectivity to have a free roaming and then continue their normal living habits. It is like, for example, if we have a home with three, four siblings with the mama and dada and servants and everybody. Just imagine if our home is get divided into two, then our space is getting smaller. Then our activities will get less, and then we are also stressed. So it's a similar analogy that is happening in the nature, but nature is much more complex because many other species also interact with each other. So the main cause is the habitat destruction, which is the large areas getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
So, sir, habitat loss is the main cause for this, sir?
Main cause.
So
I mean, there are other things also.
So do you think that's the main reason for elephants to come into human civilization, sir?
Exactly, yeah. Because 20 years ago, when I was small, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we never heard about elephant-human conflict. Why? They have plenty of land to roam around. They never, there was no reason for them to come in contact with the humans or farmers. Then with the increasing of the population, we need the agricultural land. So we slowly crept into the natural area, especially in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. So that is where the conflict started. With the elephants.
Yes, so now you mentioned that habitat loss is one of the main reasons for species to be called endangered, and one of the main reasons for human-elephant conflict. But nowadays, we see a lot of villagers blaming it on the elephants rather than themselves. So do you think that the people should be more educated on these matters, and how do you suggest we do that?
Now, it's a classic case of the environmental problem converted into a socio-political problem. Now, the human-elephant conflict has gone to that level, out of control. Why it is out of control? You are absolutely right. We were not, we didn't really, we have not given the right, correct information to the people we relocate. We have taken so much of elephant land, and then we have given so much of land to the farmers, and we never told them that this elephants will be a problem one. Otherwise, they wouldn't come and settle down those lands. No? Just imagine if somebody told me that I'm going to give you a land, but the elephants will be right next to your land. I said, no, just keep it to yourself. I don't want to deal with that. But that has not happened. And also, we as a human, we are also free, but whoever gives something, we just go and settle down and get that. It's free, That's how the Mahaveli development project and things like that have come into the scene. Then large areas, I'm talking about the hundreds of thousands of acres of lands, elephant land has been slowly encroached. And now it has become a socio-political issue. Because when there's a problem, people get into the street, and it's a political issue, and it's a socio issue, and it's an economic issue. People say that, well, I can't live without my annual crop. Elephants come and destroy. Give me the guns, give me how to kill the elephant. But people never thought that elephant is an asset for Sri Lanka. Elephant is absolutely economic asset to Sri Lanka, but we never communicate that. You are right. And at least what we need to do, trying to communicate to the next generation, people like in your generation, to see you think very deep when you start something, because there are long-term repercussions, the long-term results, long-term problems that may arise. So these are the things that we need to look at. And that at that time, of course, you were telling that this will come. And now when it comes, you don't know what to do. There are new methodologies that you can do actually. Maybe science can help us on that. We need to understand in Sri Lankan context, the Sri Lankan elephants don't travel too far like the African elephants. They don't have the long distance migration. All what we need to understand the local migratory pathways. And then maybe some of the villages that we have already relocated, maybe in the natural pathways, in the traditional pathways, so that we can remove those villages. Now, those are the commitments that we need to look at. I mean, that is why India is very successful in terms of their Project Tiger. In 1972, they have launched the Project Tiger, and they looked at some of the villages needs to be relocated, and they did it. And it was very successful. One thing is the people are also happy because they were living very tough area. And not only that, they don't have to deal with this problem almost daily basis. So that you need to communicate that. You need to tell the people and maybe give more benefits for the people who are willing to relocate and go to a better place. So those are the options. And also, new science, I don't know. I mean, many things have done, but nothing you can stop elephants because they are smart animals. They learn things, they change their strategies almost daily basis. So very difficult. Just like going to Jurassic Park. How do you stop this animal? Very difficult.
Yes, sir. Now you mentioned these species being economical assets to our country. So now we see a lot of high-end people that are in high positions giving out these plots of land to villagers to accomplish their various political agendas. But in doing that, there is huge habitat loss for these animals, especially elephants, which end up in human-elephant conflict as well. So our country's economy is mostly based on tourism. And as you mentioned earlier, sir, you've also been a part of cinnamon hotels tourism regarding wildlife, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And our country's economy is based on tourism, and ecotourism is one of our country's specialities. So do you think protecting these species and our other industries helping out and supporting our tourism industries would help our economy to grow in a much greater pace? And do you think that would help Sri Lanka to come out of the struggle and to hopefully become a much more developed country?
Now, you pointed out a few things. One thing is economic part of it. Number two is the private sector engagement. Number three is the high-end tourism. So those are the very important points that we need to look at. So there's the new about few years back, about 3-4 years before this COVID thing has happened, Sri Lanka Tourism has done a very comprehensive survey among the tourists that visit Sri Lanka. Now, the traditional tourism in Sri Lanka is all about sand and sea. That's being island. That's how it is. But about 3 years ago, that survey was a shocker to everybody, including to us. 70% of the tourists that visit Sri Lanka, they say that they visit Sri Lanka just because of its natural pristine and natural wealth that we have. That was a eye-opener to us, right? So elephant is one of those things they're looking at. The leopards are another thing. Because when you go to another countries, of course, the leopards are there in Africa, India, they have elephants are there in many parts of the world. But being in Sri Lanka, it is easier for them to watch these animals very easily. So that is why we need to look at that part and build a very high-end tourism aspect, not just $30, $60, $80, $100 tourism. That is what some other countries are doing, and that we need to understand the uniqueness of nature, and we have to conserve that, and then get the maximum benefit of it, right? For example, if you're looking at the Yala National Park, if you're looking at the Minedi elephant gathering, those were billions of dollars. But what we need to do is we need to scientifically manage it and then take the tourism into a next level so that the country will get the maximum economic benefit, which we desperately need, as you correctly pointed out. Now, under the current COVID situation, we all know lack of tourism, what has happened to the country? We are bankrupt nation. We're almost there. We are almost bankrupt nation because one of the biggest dollar earning for the country is the tourism, which is totally non-existent in today's context. So because of that, I think we need to change the strategy to looking at our natural resources. What are the special things that we have and how do we manage it? Because people don't like to come to the country to watch elephants when the 300 elephants are dying every year. That is not what they want to hear. They don't want to come. They don't want to visit to a country to see elephants where the elephants are eating garbage in tons. I mean, they are flocking around the garbage dumps. They don't want to see that. If those are bad pubs, that tourism we can't do it. All what we can do, we have so much of bird life, so much of things that we can highlight, the rainforest and things like that, a lot of things that we can do. But the conservation, the caring part is the number one. Because now the tourists are very, especially the high-end tourists that you're talking about, who are willing to pay $100, $200, $300, even $500. That is what happened to Maldives, right? Maldives, when people go to Maldives, they're paying $700 per day. What do they have? They don't have anything else. Pristine coral reefs, that's all. They're protecting that coral reefs like their heart, and they're like their life, because they know that this is how they can earn money. I will tell you a classic example for you all to learn from one example from Rwanda. I visited Rwanda twice. Rwanda has the critically endangered mountain gorillas. Only 700 left for the whole world. So that 700 animals are divided into 3 countries: Rwanda, Congo, and Uganda. But the Rwandan side has the biggest population. You know the park entrance ticket. They will take you a curated safari. Park entrance ticket is $1,500 per person. $1,500 per person for 1 hour viewing time. And then, first time I visited, it was 600. Second time when I visited, it was 750. And they said that, sir, next time it will be a little expensive. But I never thought that they will double it. But they doubled it overnight, $1,500. And I said, your tourism is going to crash. Who is going to pay $1,500 to see the critically endangered mountain gorillas for 1 hour, 1 hour viewing time? Very curated safaris, right? You attract the jungle, a very nice experience. But you know what? Now, by increasing the rate, increasing the park ticket, there's a what do you call the list? Now there's a list. You can't get the ticket right away now, because now people want to go more. Now the more and more people want to go and get this experience. There's a waiting list now. So you can't even, if you want to go next year, I may not be able to go even paying $1,500. So if you're looking at the entire cost of my trip to Rwanda and come back cost about 1.1 million, right? But it is fully worth it just for one experience. That's the level that we need to think of. In Sri Lanka, we have two things that we can do at that level. One is the leopard of Yala. Two is Sri Lankan elephant. We can, if somebody give me to run these two by using these two animals, I will run a world-class tourism experience, which will give greater benefit to the country, so that people will also get benefit. People who get relocated, people who are in the edge of the human-elephant conflict, we can take them out of that situation also, because these money we can give back to those communities and take them out of their difficult situation. They will be happy. The little kids will be happy, and they will be part of these programs. So there are a million things that you can do, but unfortunately, the government of Sri Lanka and the authorities are not ready to accept the fact, not ready to accept the new realities, no, not ready to accept the new strategies. You know, it's the world is keep changing. We all know that. The education has to change, the sports things has to change, the way that we do agriculture has to change. So different strategies have to be applied based on how the country is moving forward, how the world economy is moving forward. But we are still living in 19th century or 15th century. It's not going to work. That is unfortunate part.
Yes, sir. Now you said that you mentioned a lot of places such as Rwanda and Indonesia and a lot of places. So, and the main things that they do is they protect what they have and they make sure that they earn that value. So if someone, and like you said, they charge you a huge amount of money to visit some endangered creature because they value that, and they make sure that it's exclusive at this point.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. And
now India is also a classic example. Indian tiger tourism was non-existent 20 years ago, because some parts you can't see tigers. Today, my God, it's a huge industry. Yeah, you are absolutely right.
Yes, sir. And in Sri Lanka, it's totally doable because we have all the natural beauties and all the natural things in order to accomplish those things. It's just that we don't have a proper system in place. And you mentioned that these safaris in Rwanda and all, they are properly curated and people with knowledge take you through these journeys. So do you think that we have that knowledge? Do you think that there are people with that necessary knowledge in Sri Lanka in order to carry out these things?
You pointed out a very good point. It was when I went to Rwanda. We all know Rwanda. My mother was furious when I was planning to go to Rwanda. She said, it's a barbaric country that you're visiting. I said, Mama, that era is gone, right? That era is gone. You don't know about New Rwanda, right? No, those guys are killing each other, I said, no, that era is gone. I'm going to see a new Rwanda, right? I'm telling you, I was trained in States as a ranger, as a wildlife person. When you see a ranger in US, you will see a very professional man, because he comes with the uniform that has all the credentials are in his uniform. The bird specialist, the fire specialist, the communication specialist, the jumping specialist. I mean, everything that they earn are on their uniform. So when they come out, and they are very extremely professional, and they talk with the authority, they talk science. That's the training that they go through to become a ranger. Now that's the highest level. The Australia and other countries also have, but the US training is at a different level. Not because I was trained in state, but that's the level. But when I went to Rwanda, I was shocked. The level of professionalism of the Rwandan rangers. They are fluent in German, they are fluent in Italian, they are fluent in French, right? When they come and give you the briefing, I mean, I was thinking, is this Rwanda? this is Rwanda. First time I went there, sir, anybody who speaks German, who speaks French, I can explain everything. You know, English is absolutely fluent and very professional, come with a nice uniform and all. I was shocked. I said, from where do you get the training? They're villages. They're from the very same village, that surrounding villages. They were recruited. They have gone through so much of training after training after training by the professionals from all around the world. But there's one thing that they have, which we don't have, most of us, the passion of what they're doing. You know, they do it with a passion, not just the profession. He said that what they said was, this is our Rwanda. This is what we protect. This is why we are Rwandan. So that passion has given them a very special, I would say, the energy to learn things. You know, that is how they become fluent in. Now, just imagine in Sri Lankan wildlife range, if you go and talk to him, you know, they come in, you know, not uniform, nothing, no confidence, big tummy and all, you know, but that's the level of training that we don't have. And the other thing is we are not passionate about, right? But then what, you know, not only that, I was really shocked. I'm taking the Rwandan example because that country has gone through so much to come to this level. And they said that, Mr. Weerathunga, you're from Sri Lanka, no? After the tour, when we came to the office, and they give you a certificate, a visiting certificate, right? You have visited Rwanda, you have seen some of the group number, the gorilla group number. Very nice. I have 3 certificates here. And not only that, they said that, you're a Sri Lankan. Let's see how many Sri Lankans have visited Rwanda before you. And they went to the database and opened, and you see the one Sri Lankan I visited before me, right? His name is there, his address is there. Oh, Mr. Mahipala from Colombo has visited Rwanda. Just imagine the level of thinking what they have put together. I was thrilled. That, okay, I'm the second Sri Lanka. And then Otara went later on and then, named a gorilla baby. That ceremony is also cost a hell of a lot of money. You have to give money to name a baby gorilla. So that's the level of science, conservation, and tourism sort of bridge together. It's amazing to see countries like Rwanda has gone to that level. And then you pointed out a very important point. That's what it is, the training, passion, and the education. That changed everything. But we need to understand, we have to be ready to get that, not only in this field, but also any field. The other day, I was, these days the Olympic was going on, and there was an analysis of Usain Bolt. There was an interview, and he said that I ran 115 seconds in my entire career. So 115 seconds, which I earned 8 gold medals plus $190 million. How long it took for me to come to that level? 20 years. So it took 20 years for him to run for 115 seconds at a maximum level, which he has earned enough money for his life. But that's not the case. What we need to understand, that is what the dedication, the passion, and where you want to go. That's what we need to understand, especially the youngsters. You also need to understand that, of course, any profession, it is like that today. The learning will give you an edge. Training, additional training will give you an edge. Your passion to learn, curiosity to learn will give you an edge. And then you will become a different person, little better than the others, out of the block. That is what we need to do.
Yes, sir. And as you mentioned, in Sri Lanka, these things aren't that, as to a point, I feel like these occupations are undermined, and the past generations, they go in this cliche way where they want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, if not other professions. They undermine careers as such. So, but the new generations, you see a lot of these kids, they see a lot of passion towards nature, and then they see the value of our country and the potential that we have. So hopefully things would get better. But like you said, the knowledge is key to all of this, and we should make sure to make use of what we have as a country. And like you said, that naming gorillas, so they saw an opportunity and they made some sort of economical sense out of it. That sounds ridiculous, but it makes sense for them. And
for them, it is their asset. No, this is my asset. If you want to do it, this is the way to do it. You pay, $500,000 to get the right of naming a gorilla baby. That's huge. So people like Ottara can do it. And there are multi-millionaires that fly to Rwanda during that ceremony, including this guy who has sent the rocket very recently, the British guy, Richard Branson. The thing is, that's their right. So we also can sort of do similar things in Sri Lanka, because the leopards are iconic animals. Elephants are iconic animals. The Asian elephants, the best place to watch Asian elephants in large numbers is Sri Lanka, because the 10% of the Asian population is living in this country, this small piece of land with 20 million people. And that itself is a selling story. That is what my colleagues who are working in this field, international colleagues, who are telling me, you guys are idiots. That story of 5,000 plus elephants living with 22 million people side by side is a selling story. You just sell that. You sell that story, and people will come and flock around to listen to that story, and that is enough. You don't need anything else. Forget about everything else, and that is enough. But our people don't understand. They've been telling these conservation agencies, whatever, wildlife department, forest department, politicians. Nobody listens. Nobody understands. Nobody understands. We keep telling that there's a dollar, there's a economic part, but still they don't. Very unfortunate.
Yes, so now we look up towards countries like America and and Canada and such. But the thing is, people visit to different countries and they serve different purposes. So if you visit to Dubai, they offer you a more economical aspect. But if you fly to Sri Lanka or Bali, Malaysia, it offers a more tropical and nature-based experience. So without us trying to be like US or Japan, where we need tourism which involves skyscrapers, we need to focus more on wildlife and nature-based tourism. And like you said, Rwanda, they had this amazing database where they could just go through that and find what nationality they are from, where they were from, when they visited here. So that is amazing to have, because that helps them a lot with marketing and all in further years. So a proper strategy is needed, and there needs to be a proper system in place. So, and the opportunity is there. It's just that we need to properly identify the things we have and try to make economic sense of it, while there being a positive impact on the nature as well. Unfortunately, sir, so we are running a little late on time. But before we finish things off, you mentioned the people from the young generation having a lot of passion and knowledge on these things, and that is what helps us to grow as a country, and especially during this pandemic. What can these young people do if they have passion towards environmentalism or, let's say, ecotourism? What are the things that they can do during this pandemic?
Now, this is the opportunity for us to learn, right? This is the time that we have all kinds of time in the world to learn something new. If you're, for us now, every citizen should be an environmentalist under the current circumstances, because our lives are connected to nature directly, even though we don't realize. No matter where you live, whether you are living in a high skyscraper or a poor villager right next to elephant land, your life is connected. So just learn that. The medicines that we are getting, the food that we are getting, the petroleum that we are getting, everything is part of nature. Even the COVID is also something that we can learn about nature, how this disease has jumped from bat to anteater to humans. And those are the things that we can learn. If you're really passionate, for new generation, the learning is right at your fingertips, not like those days. When we were curious, we had to go through books and books after books after books after libraries after libraries after libraries, right? Today, it's all at your fingertips. You go to a main source, maybe you purchase some papers, learn something in so much of channels that you can watch. Nat Geo, Discovery, there's a new channel called Curiosity. It's a fantastic learning experience. They're talking mostly science part of it. Nat Geo and of course the discoveries and things like that add some dramatic part of it, but Curiosity is totally on science part of it. So learn from these things, but that increase the fascination of it. And then you will become a better person. It doesn't matter whether you become a doctor or an engineer or a software engineer or a hardware engineer or whoever it is. It doesn't matter. Now those are the sort of popular professions, popular industries, popular streams, educational streams today. But there are these streams also getting momentum now. My son he grew up here, and because of his passion that goes with me, he went to the same university and he learned from the same professors today as we talk. Now he's just 18 years old, managed to get to the US, same university, and he's learning. He enrolled to the same subject, want to become a wildlife scientist, and then he's continuing his career. So that's how it is. It's just the learning. We have time, or we have time to do gaming also. But so you have to select what is the priority. You can learn languages. Now I have been telling my daughter, just learn some languages. That's another special thing. When I went to Rwanda, this is something that's totally stuck in my mind. We are very poor in languages, multiple languages, and then just imagine a country like Rwanda, which doesn't have any technological access or anything. You guys learn things, unbelievably fluent. So the new generation has to learn new languages, and that communication values are immense. And that is also very important if you want to become a ecotourism expert. Knowledge of multiple languages is giving you a huge advantage, right? You can become a translator to the embassy. So those are new, highly paid professions nowadays. So learn new things. To have a passion of environment, things. If you can't find anything, read many multiple sources so that you will get that into your head. So that's the only advice which I can give. Yeah.
Just so that was some amazing piece of advice. Like you mentioned, it's a great time for us as a community and as a country to grow back and then put a system in place to gather knowledge on these matters. And so once everything comes back to normal, hopefully, we will have everything in place in order to make a great comeback as a country. So it is a great time for everyone to learn and put a system in place, adapt, and make certain changes that are necessary. So yes, some great piece of advice, and we really enjoyed talking to you about these matters, sir. And thank you for sharing all your information and experience that you have. gathered
Thank you very much,
throughout.
sir. Thank you for joining with us.
Best thing, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
We hope you're the best, sir. Thank you for joining, sir. Have a good day.